So I go to Henry's Chalfont studio one day, and I'm in there, and Lee's in there, but I didn't know who it was. And I think Henry might have been there with last, just me and Lee. And I'm talking to this guy for hours, and he starts telling me, well, yo, graffiti's gonna go backwards, and you know, everybody's getting very detailed, so it's gonna regress. And I'm like, and then at some point, at this time, this guy named Michael Stewart had been these videos had like 2 weeks before, and the topic came up, and I said, "What did that guy write?" And Lee misheard me and thought I asked him what he wrote. He's like, "Lee." I'm like, "That guy's not Lee." He goes, "No, I'm Lee." and I'm like, "Holy shit! I've been sitting here with this guy for like an hour and a half." And you know, having to take time. And I was like, wait, how long are you gonna be here? Because I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna get my book. So I ran home, got a book, came back, he did some stuff for me, you know, and that's how I met him. And then a week later, I was at Soho with some of my little friends at an opening or something, and he's like, "Yo, Reese, what's up?" And I was like, I felt like $1 million, so. Future, here we are.
So, to explain, some people here may not know, Henry Chalfont was a sculptor at the time, had a really incredible studio downtown in Soho, and was very generous with his space, which was almost the size of his gallery.
Yeah.
And it became like sort of the watering hole for a lot of graffiti writers that came. Felt like it was a new sanctuary that they can come and look at pictures of each other's works, maybe settle some differences and stuff like that. And it was actually, I used it as a studio myself, making some of my latest paintings there at the time.
I think there was a Frankenstein painting in there.
Yeah, that was many years later.
Okay.
9.
I just remember it being.
Yeah, I had it hanging there for a long time. It was just as tall ceilings like this, and maybe pretty much the same size anyways, but it was actually a place where writers removed themselves from the subway system, and they were able to come into a studio environment and feel that they had some kind of safety net to have discussions with each other, share ideas and all. So it was great. I remember meeting you, and I swore it was, you came in with a bunch of kids, maybe that might have been another time. And I was like, oh, these guys are like from the neighborhood, and it kind of like surprised me. I was like, graffiti must have been Soho. I lived on the other side of Chinatown, on the Lower East Side, on the waterfront. Yes. And sorry, Randall, I was in the real waterfront, but it was a trek to get there, and it was just like a place to go. And, actually get an idea of what a studio practice looked like. Going into a place, and during the day, and we would not be there, sometimes for days on end.
Right.
And it sort of became night watchman. So I was like, no one's coming in here to do any kind of ruckus.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good trade-off between Henry and I and other artists that were championing Henry as much as Henry was championing us. So, but here we are, and I think what's great about that time that still continues to this day is that there's a community still of that, right? So, I mean, here we are at an incredible show of yours with brand new work, and we're having a discussion. And that's great because we're from the same umbrella, but we have our own lanes.
Yeah.
And it's great. Yeah. So, I got some questions here.
Okay.
It's in the carburetor book, how to train your. That's that way I can hide it from you and.
Right.
But we even call it when I came in opening night. Opening nights you hardly see anything. You see people, you start talking, you're trying to focus on one word or all the words, and it's all a blur. It's always nice to come back and look at it. When I came back, I was like, wow, here's a cat that comes from a certain practice where you're used to making shapes and forms in a certain space, right? And creating an abundance, whether it's tag or throw up or whatever. And you know, I was always against throw ups back then in the day, but now I'm starting to understand it in a whole new light. Throw ups is a quick rendering of your name, really quick, filled in, very skimpy and outlined, and you move on, and you move on, you move on. You can do hundreds a night. And it's creating a shape and form in the space and taking control of that space. And I feel like in these paintings, you're sort of getting a sense of space. You're experimenting with depth of field. I mean, can you talk
Yeah,
about
like, these are totally different than usual, and in fact, like, there's an aspect about them that's like a throw, where this is, the way this is built in, it's not solid,
Right.
And most of my other work has been completely solid shapes, forms, very clean, so there is an aspect of like more immediacy here, and although these parts of them take a long time, just depends. Like some of them takes a long time, some of them goes fast, you know, and because of the way this stuff doesn't dry fast, it's not as immediate as using spray paint,
Right.
or even acrylic paint, which the other paintings that I've made have mainly been. I mean, I start by making small wash paintings, and I make piles and piles. I just do one off the pilot,
right.
you know, and then I choose which ones are going to become something bigger, and even those are, you know, those are flat, but then there's like drawing elements with graphite on top, and so those like that element kind of got lost, like the hand drawn aspects of the originals in the work that I've done a lot of, which are like acrylic paintings, which are clean and graphic. And I'm like getting to get the drawing fun out of all this new work.
Right.
You know, these are similar compositions to the acrylic paintings that's just done with it, you know, this medium, and like it allows me to like try some new directions.
Yeah, yeah. So you could safely say that this is sort of like an experimental stage
Yeah.
between two
Mm-hmm.
between two series or maybe mini-series.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I'm just gonna see where this is going. Like, the last show that I did here was also, you know, like revisiting something, which was all spray paint, large scale. And,
Right.
and that show actually kind of was like that because there was a lot of texture. Like you said, like, when you see throw, when you look at the throw, you see the stripes.
Right.
And so that exists here too. So I've got to do some more, you know, moving, like even if I'm moving back to old mediums or something, like doing something new, trying out new things, and these are different because the difference between these spray paint ones and the acrylic ones is, you know, when you're doing a piece like with spray paint, you're like, oh, I don't really like how this is going. Like 2 seconds, it's going to dry, and I'm going to go back on top. These, you can paint yourself into a corner because it doesn't dry so quick. Even though they look very, it's, you know, it is immediate, but I have to know. Since these are new to me, I really have to know where I'm going with it and where I'm laying it in. And you know, sometimes, like if I want to draw, the top of a color, it has to dry.
Right. It has to.
It should, yeah. I mean, or like in that green tree there, I can just take a tube of oil paint and just, like, then it doesn't have, you know what I mean? Which is cool.
Are you having fun?
Dude, I'm having, like, the last 2 shows was just fun. I think we even said, like, on the last show, looks like you had fun making these. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And I'm having fun with this too.
But I'm glad.
I feel like that's key.
I'm glad you're saying that because, you know, I suffer with white paint. I'm having a hard time. It's like I'm the most hardest critic. And a lot of this I'm trying to, I paint differently.
Right.
And I get fixated in one little corner and stay there for a week.
Right.
Sometimes 2 weeks, and that informs the rest of the thing to me, right?
Right.
Basically, it's like a triggering device.
Right.
But here, you seem to be like I envy it, because I'm like, wow.
There's some moments where I'm like horrified. So, like that painting there has
The one in
like,
the middle?
yeah, the brown, red, white, and blue, brown. So it's got a lot of negative space. But before I decided to do that, there was a point where I was like, those are all going to be different colors, and I had to stop myself. You know what I mean? I was like, no, it's done. And that's an adult decision.
Close to you.
No, because I have, like, some of them are very involved, you know, and then some of them are less involved, and then, so, you know, while I was making, oh man, this one seems done. You know, it took a lot. That was, like you said, like, you know, when you're feeling like conflicted, yeah, so, anyway, yeah.
No, I feel that, correct me if I'm wrong, or you identify with, sometimes as a creator, you create something, you feel like you're the headmaster, right? You have this idea, you put it down, you can lay it down according to your rules, and then all of a sudden it takes a life on its own.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then you're like, oh shit. At that point of like departure or like,
Right.
let me just walk away for a couple hours. I can't walk away. I'm always staring at it. We're having an argument.
Oh, yeah. You know, especially, like, with this stuff, it's different, like, because it comes out of this, it's like an oil stick, I'm just drawing with it, and it'll slide and, like, do something. And then, like you said, like, then you're like,
Spray paint does that too.
yeah, right. And so then, it's like, oh shit, this thing just did this thing that, it's some improvising that gets done, and then you're like, it can change what your plans are. You're saying, like, yeah, I'm the master, but like this material just changed the off ramp for it. I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, you have to make these decisions.
Yeah. So, you know, another question that comes to me is that whether you're the master or not, at the end of the day, I've learned to live with the fact that you never finish me. A painting is finished by the audience. When you look at it, they'll look at it differently than you are.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, I have a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that thought,
Yeah.
are you comfortable, like when you was talking about that big one, and it was like, it's done, was you comfortable with yourself knowing that it's done for you, but maybe it might not be done for anyone else?
Right. Oh yeah, but I for some reason, like, I knew it was done, and I had to like sleep on it and stuff, you know, for a while. But I instinctively just knew it, and I was like, you know what, like, it's good. Like, I need to just like leave this, and like I've got these other ones that are more involved, and like
Right. Right.
I think that's the only way to like kind of move forward. You know, you have to like take some risks,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
even if those risks are simply like saying like it's done.
Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes the art says, that part of
Right.
art saying, no, I'm done, leave me alone.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I see that there's not on, like, the last show, there was a big element, of the form, right? And here, I have not seen,
Well,
at least,
There's a couple. I mean, there's cats. Do they count? Yeah, there's cats. There's a woman down there. There's a woman in there. Oh, but it's like small. You know what I mean? There aren't any in here.
Right.
There aren't any in here.
right,
There's none here either. There's some in the painting, but it's all small. But yeah, right. It's less people in these. And then the people do show up, but they usually show up in the paintings. I think the only one that's got a person, and it's just a hand there in the foreground. And then there's a woman in the back.
okay. So it's a deliberate attempt to, like, keep them as a secondary.
I just for whatever reason, it got, yeah. I think, yeah, these are like retreating, and you know what I mean? Like, I do these interiors, it's like, these are analog places. A lot like this is like I'm going to the past, even though like a lot of the furniture's looking. I don't know. It's like an escapism thing for me.
Is this furniture that you remember, or that you still have in your home?
Oh, some of it, like some of it could be like a piece of furniture that I have in the house, or that I see somewhere, and like that's actually like partially like the studio space, but like I reinvented other aspects of it, like the cart. There's a little cart there, and then these are all paintings popped up.
Yeah.
So that's like a view out of a window that exists, and but some of like a lot of the paintings and stuff I made up just in the painting. They're not. It's like,
That's New York State.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. It's so yeah, and then I'll just compose. You know, I'll see like a furniture that I like, and then I've got like by now I have like just kind of like, all right, I know this kind of chair exists.
Right. Yeah, the walls do talk. I mean, I would say, let me ask you something. If you walked into this gallery, Todd was offering you a show,
Right.
would you have to come first to the gallery to get a sense of what you think should fit here, or you can create, or?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, sometimes there's all different kinds of galleries. Some are, are like this, and then some are like, somebody got a storefront. It's like, well, So, I could show these in pretty much anywhere, I think, but spaces do kind of like I think about what the room I'm going to be showing the paintings in, how many to make and how I lay them out. I don't get too hung up on how they're going to get hung up. When I'm making them, I'm like, do these go together? Like,
Right.
do they talk to each other?
Right, right, yeah.
Because then you can put them, if they work with each other, it doesn't matter. You can just bring them anywhere.
Right. But it'll be like when you're running to work on the streets or even on the trains,
Oh, right.
your sense of space is different because you're always moving.
Well, also, like, okay, so if you're going to do a train, like, unless like, okay, you and two other people are gonna do, for you, you're like, hey, it was mostly like, I'm gonna do a panel, and I'm gonna get the hell out of there. And so, depending if you get there and that there's nothing clean, and you're like, all right, well, this panel near the end of the train is clean up to the door, and I don't want to go over this guy. So that dictates, all right, I'm not doing the cloud I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
Or I need to do more cloud.
Well, you can include the guy that's next to you in the crowd.
Right. Yeah, so,
I've seen that.
that is one of my regrets, was that I wish I would have done more background on my pieces, because I just wanted to do the piece and go.
Right.
So it's like, here's a little force field thing around it, it's a little bit of color, like,
Right.
and then I look at the things that I like the most, and they've got background.
Right. Well, then, you're talking about an environment that's very hostile, right? And you don't know what's coming or going, and you want to get out of it.
You want to be free, yeah.
Yeah, so you want to see the next moment when you can do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's weird because going back to the throw, which is very hastily done, some of them are beautiful. I've seen some of the most beautiful draws. I'm like, even current day, I'm like,
Someone
wow.
here does
There's some great SC3 some of the most beautiful draw-ups back in the day. They were abstract to me at first. I was like, wow, why is he putting that curve? And, but he was editing the alphabet, and
Right.
that was cool. And now I see the genius behind it, because it distinctified itself from everything else.
Right.
And now I see a lot of guys on the street. Like I said, I never was a fan of throw-ups. I totally understand the concept of like mass production, but then now I stop. Some of them stop. I'm like, wow, that's a handsome looking dog. That's pretty dope stuff. I'm like, and it makes you think about the space. Again,
Right.
the space around. Now you can see a vintage car parked on the street, and for some reason it pulls you back. And you almost forget that you're in current times. You could be in that time of that car, whatever it is, 1957 whatever, right? But here they almost seem very urgent as well.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean,
And yet you're a student.
right. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, because I'm using this material when I'm able to like draw, like, you know, and I can, you know, I don't have to, like, these are not meant to be, like all the other paintings. Like, I wanted to do more like, you know, see more of the drawing,
Right,
you know.
yeah. And I know you did a lot of drawings.
Right. And some of these, like, I mean, like, some of these took a long time. So it's like, yeah, this part might be version, but then the thinking about like, what, you know what I mean? And then yeah, then you're coming back, like, all right, I'm gonna come back to this other area that maybe I didn't finish, and then some of it where I'm like, all right, do I need to put in more green on top? Is it too thin,
Right.
thinned out over here? You know, like you said, like it's a different, it creates different problems.
So you allow, right, so
You have to allow like how much, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's funny because I was so used to making a painting, no matter what size, in one sitting,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So, you know,
Right.
I still can't believe I really did that in 10 hours. Like to this day, I'm like, wow. And people ask me all the time, how did you do that? How long did it? The next question, how long did it take? And that was 8 hours. 8 hours? I'm like, yeah, I don't even believe myself. It was.
Right.
So now, and there was no intermission.
Right.
Get it done.
When you're in the zone too, that's
In the zone, and
That's
a lot younger.
right. No, but how fun is that?
Right,
When you're in that, like just that, you're just
right. And I want maybe some rice and beans in me, and you know,
Yeah.
my little, what is it, Nido country styles or whatever. But anyway, you know, now, doing paintings that are relaxed, you know, people say, wow, now you don't have to look behind your back. I said, no, I don't have to look behind my back. Maybe you think the same, but you still have to look at the painting and you have
so yeah, there's other things that you know, there's a different problem. You because you're under the gun, right? So like you have to make a decision, right? If you have to make a decision, you've got 8 hours, maybe, and you'd like to have less actually because the quicker you go, so your brain is just like only making decisions. You know what I mean? And whereas like if you have the luxury of like, well, you know what, I'm gonna go to bed and come back and do this tomorrow. It's just different. It's just different. But I do like the adrenaline, I guess, of where your brain focuses. You know, like you're just decision making. You got it, and you kind of go.
And then you ask me a question that might be a little rough. Is it the decision making, is it based on colors, on what you think maybe?
To some degree, yeah. To some degree.
I mean, that's amazing because a lot of artists wouldn't admit that, but you know,
I mean, they're selling their paintings.
yeah, because I always,
I mean, I make what I want to make.
yeah,
I mean, there's some, you know, there's something like, yeah, I hope, you know, I hope it does well.
yeah.
But I mean, I'm making what I want to make.
Well, so,
And also, like, I feel like it's what's the saying, like, if you build it, they will come, kind of thing.
yeah,
You know,
right. And well, it's all in the chance, right?
Right.
Take that leap of faith with your
Right.
work,
Right.
and if they don't like it, maybe they'll like it 100 years from now.
right,
Someone will see the
Right.
genius,
Right.
they'll see it right there. Sometimes I'm scared when people, I mean, I'm more representational, but I also love abstract. I've
Right.
always done more abstract in the background, and then I jump on top of it
Right.
with some representational work. But it's a leap of faith at the end of the day. You want to make it that it's powerful.
Right, I want it to reach people. I mean, at the very, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm making things that I like first and foremost, and then I'm hoping other people like. I mean, like that's, you know, it's like you have to do. It's like you want to, you know, you want to make a nice piece that your peers are like, yo, I like the way you did that.
Right.
You know,
You came from you were reared in a very, movement full of apprenticeship, camaraderie.
Yeah,
and that.
yeah, it was a lot of like the people that I got to hang with other, like, I would gravitate towards other people who were, piecing characters or whatever. Like, that's what I wanted to be around.
So who were your
Me and Pure.
major influences?
Oh, influences.
Back then and now.
Okay, I'll tell you, back then, just this is rough, but it's off the top of my head. Scheme, Dez, Duster, at that time, TAC FBA, that the car with the shot. I saw that in person. That was like right around, I think everybody in my generation, that was like a huge piece. And so those guys, but then later,
Did you get to meet most of them?
briefly, yeah. I met Duster once in Henry's. I met Des years later at like the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I mean, I met you. I mean, I've met most. I've met most
Yeah.
not everybody.
Yeah. What a way to grow into the arts.
Yeah.
You think about art,
Right.
like the implication.
I mean, when I went to art and design high school, I took the test, and in the test they say, they ask you what your influences are, and I'd never thought what my influences were. I wrote John Byrne, who's the comic book artist at the time, and I wrote TAC FBA. And I wrote Picasso because I thought that's what they wanted to know. What I didn't know is that TAC FBA had gone to that school just like in 2 years. So like
Wow.
This guy was only a couple of years older,
Yeah.
but he had gone.
Wow.
So yeah, I didn't get in that year. I got it the next year.
I don't remember the test. I took the test too.
Yeah.
And I failed.
What did the first time?
It was crazy. And that was like, that didn't hurt me as much as years prior, when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. I did drawing. I don't know if some of you may remember in the back of comic books, there would be the tortoise or the pirate.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you could draw that bad boy nuts, you're going to get what it was.
Oh.
Some kind of prize. And I remember I failed that too. And I did that pirate to the T. I mean, it was better than the one. I sent it in and I got the rejection letter and I was like, and I said, my mother, I was like, can you read this? I might not understand this. At 1 years old, I was so heartbroken. Mind you, I created that pirate again years later in a day. And it was out to a T. It was
Nice.
Yeah, baby. I mean, this movement is all about comebacks, right?
Right.
It's always about comeback. Here I feel you're making a comeback, even though you never left, because you're now charting into different waters.
Right.
It's heroic, especially from graffiti writers are the most critical, hard-nosed guys that you ever meet. That shit's whack. You got a trip there. You missed out. Everything is.
Well, it's funny because, right, for like an art form that's like free and rebellious,
Right.
the criticism is like, wait, this guy's doing something too different. No, you can't do that.
Yeah, right. Right.
Now it's different. Now there's but like, there's definitely like a lane.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot more democratic than it ever has been. And especially even with the inclusion of women that are amazing. I mean, some of the best names, I'm like, oh shit, this girl can rock the fuck. Real serious. I'm like,
Yeah.
and that's great because there's going to be there's a tonnage of artists now, and it's always going to trickle down to the artists that get the recognition or whatever. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. But, and I'm hoping that, in fact, I know that a lot of women will be involved in the pickings.
Well, now, in the past it was a even the guys that like went to art design, like some of the guys that were good artists and they were into graffiti,
Right.
they didn't want to. You had to be kind of damaged a little bit in your decision. You know, you make some. I think women make better decisions sometimes. So like, I don't get arrested. I don't want to be in this environment where like, you know, it's extreme. But like, you know, the world's open up. Yeah, like there's girls that, you know, there was girls that painted trains on the other end and shit. SS shit. They did paint. A lot of other people.
Yeah, my sister painted trains with me in 1974.
That's crazy. Where's that go?
Wow. Double R layout, but they used to lay up art, the double R back then. Not this R train. Double R, I think. I remember a few times we went there, everything was well and swell, and then we had our first raid all the way in the Northeast Bronx, and she said, I'm done, can't do the same.
Oh.
She was dirty as hell.
What was the age difference?
1 year. She was older.
Oh, she was older.
She was older, I was a baby, and she had talent.
Right.
Her children had talent. And I don't know if I argued with her, but I think she got involved because her boyfriend at the time was an amazing painter from the Lower East Side.
Okay.
Graffiti writer, that style. This guy named Master One.
Oh.
And he came and he just flipped the script on us in the neighborhood. He came with the style that I was like, oh my God, we got to up our heads. You know, and he was a street writer.
Right.
Like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Never went into the trains until I ushered him in.
Right.
And my sister, and she came along because it was her boyfriend.
That's
That's teenage love. You do anything for your other partner. Yeah. You know, I have to watch right now. I'm tired of being Carolina's daughter. I look like one. I'm all filthy, painted.
Right.
You know, she was a very pretty girl. She's not around anymore. But she was one of very heroic young women that, you know, went down.
right.
And got down. You know. But now you see a lot more because it's more open.
Right. It's a global thing.
Got venues like this, and yeah, it's global. It's the largest movement in the world. I don't want to hear it. I mean, it's basically the globe's largest.
I mean, I remember when you know, you go to somewhere for the summer with my family as a kid, and it didn't even exist. Not even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It could exist in Philly, but you know.
Yeah.
And then eventually, now it's over.
So, you know, another thing going back to those times, reflecting to these times, is that, you know, you got away with a lot of stuff back then, and you was the hero of the block, it was your, you know, whatever you did, you always had those, you know, quarterback moments where you delivered the ball at the end zone, and everyone gave you your props. And what I feel that's very important now is that a good portion of us are now starting to understand the new yard that we're in, the new place to,
Oh, right.
you know, to place, you know, your work. And I love that because now we can have much more mature, sincere conversations. You know, I've seen the growth of several artists, some of them that are here, that I'm like, wow, that's turning into a notch. I love that because it was a community then, it's a community now, and I like to think that we're comfortable in our lanes, and that there's no like outlooking into.
Actually, Days is here, and he was the first person to like kind of introduce me into like how this works.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, you know all the stuff you did on the trains? Forget about it.
Right.
Like,
That's hard to hear.
it was hard to hear. He's like, you got to create a new body of work,
Right.
and you're starting from that. And that was, thank you, Days. So yeah, that was hard to
Yeah.
And he you know, he would tell me on the how things work.
Man, he was nice to you. He's always snapping on me. But you know, like, not to rhyme names, but Eric Hayes here has done meets and bounds.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, these two have been experimenting on many fronts, you know, and comes back to painting and who knows what else in the future. And I'm like, he's taking that leap of faith with us.
Right.
And it's good. It feels like we start that umbrella.
Keo's here.
Yeah, yeah, right. So, it's such a great, it's good to, I mean, we're mature men.
Right.
We have families, we have studios, we have responsibilities to keep the legacy going. Because now I know without a fact that this was not just a vile bad in the moment. Yeah,
You think not?
clearly.
I mean, like if you go into, like I went into Lick, which is as we know, it's a chain art supply store.
Yeah,
There's a huge, it's like they're selling spray paint, but not just spray paint, it's made for graffiti.
yeah, crank.
You know, I mean, like, yeah, so, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's many products that are catering to
Right.
the work as
Like it's stuff, it's art supplies that are created from the movement that you know, helped.
So I walked into, it wasn't a Blick, it was an independent, the run store down in Miami Beach. And I remember asking, like, where's the, so-and-so graffiti supply house, where they have a lot of spray paint. Oh, yeah, we have one. It's just a little bit up by Little Jamaica. And we drive up there, and I said, and I walk into the place, and I ask, where's your spray paint? I walk into this room, and almost half the size of this gallery is full of different brands of spray paint. From 94 to Montana to you name it.
Right.
Everything is there, except for the American brands.
Oh, really?
Funny enough, quite on the Stolen Red Devil all slept on it. But,
Oh, right.
you know, I mean, we're having a conversation earlier about how spray paint got sort of introduced into the movement, and it was basically not about the design, but basically the color,
Right.
palette. And I was bringing paint back as early as 1980 from Europe on my person on the plane. And knowing that cans were dressed, put them in the storage, in the check-in baggage, you're not getting home. Because either they're gonna find it or the plane is gonna blow up in the middle of the ocean, right? So I found that you take with you, and if you keep the cans facing up with the color caps, when they open the bags, because they all look like cylinders, nuclear cylinders or bombs or whatever, you said, you know, they ask me all the time, even here in the States,
Right.
what is this? And I would always say, art supplies. So they would look at orange, yellow, blue, it was optically like, to them, they saw colors, art supply, oh yeah, oof. Got away with it like 15 times or more, and introduced new paint
Right.
to the movement here, not knowing that it would become possibly $1 billion business.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we're now in Europe, because they have their feet deep in arts
Right.
more than the Americans.
Right, yeah, but since it was like viewed as a crime here, especially in New York,
Right.
they have a chance, places from outside have a chance to look at it differently, you know, like, oh, this is art.
Right. Yeah. Well, now us as artists, painters, creators, really, we're now looking at a history that, you know, probably died ended 30 years ago. To me, that, you know, more or less same time. But I've always felt like
You mean graffiti?
graffiti.
Right, right, so for you, it ends with the trains, but even though it's still going.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still.
But there's a chapter for you that's a sacred time, right? Am I getting that?
Yes, yes. A very small window of time where it went from the crudeness to masterful rendered whole cars, whole trains.
Right.
And that right there was saying, one, this is evolving and revolving.
Right.
You know, and it's also, you know, it's laying the map to something bigger than ourselves. And you know, you can't see the flames when you're in them.
Right.
But if you step back 30, 50 years, you can see those flames. You can find those flames in the distance. And that's when, and I think that that's not only us, but the general public, the curatorial,
Right.
critical, journal, you know, the journals are now looking at it. It's like, wow, not only have they matured and progressed and recreated themselves, we thought this was just gonna fade off,
Right.
and now it's here.
Yeah, so like, I mean, a friend of mine's father who's an old painter, was like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, but one day, the guys who are my age are gonna watch this are gonna think different. And Todd Kramer is one of these guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, time, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, in the like, when, I'd say like in the 70s, everything was not in the 50s. Because everybody older, like, they were like Sean on, you know, Grease and all this stuff on TV. It was like the 1950s stuff.
Right.
That's because the people that grew up were into that. So like, you know, the generation of our generation and the younger generation
Right.
view it differently, like value
Right.
stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, we kind of extended Rebel with Rebels with the cause.
Right.
Right. So I mean, every generation always points back and reflects and goes, "Oh yeah, that was great. That was smooth." You know, not realizing that this has been happening since the beginning of time. I mean, you go back to Pompeii in 79 AD, and there was graffiti on the walls. That was great thing, obviously, but there was scratching, and you know,
There's always somebody writing there, like,
politically too.
yeah, oh yeah.
Politically. So, so that leads me, I mean, so when you're making art, I mean, do you find, what are the outside forces, other art forms that inform you, that give you your muse? Because New York, to me, will always be my muse, right?
Right.
Sure, probably,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
if I go upstate, I can't sleep because it's too quiet. Shit, I'm like that. I need some noise. But if I go upstate, I get a little clearer sense. Over here, there's a lot of distraction.
Right.
So what's your thing in your studio, or even when you're walking down the street and you're thinking about a painting?
Oh.
Is that Dante there? Oh no, I thought it was what is it that excites you about getting to the studio and having that conversation?
It's, you know what, I do it, I don't think about it all the time, but if I be watching a movie, you know, I could go to see a show in a museum or something, or just be texting with somebody and they're sending me an image of emotions. Sometimes, like, I'll get inspired by seeing an image that makes me want to make something.
Right.
But when I go in, like, I'm not an artist who's like, I'm gonna wait until like inspiration strikes me. I go in, like, work and draw, and I just get it. Yeah, like, because it'll strike me then. Like, I have to work, I have to be doing it in order for it to strike. I mean, sometimes it strikes when you're not, but like, I think of it like, I've gotta like go do this, and I'll always be drawing, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm sitting around and drawing. So that's kind of like how I work, or where these things come. And then I love music. Music is huge. I don't know what, you know, that's a huge, everything, everything from like rap and metal, even though I don't really listen to that like all the time now, they're like yacht rock. Easy listening, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, and then when I get into different, but like I'm not like I don't need to stick to one thing. If it's good, it's good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, music is very important to me. I go all across the map. It's great. People look at my playlist and like,
Right.
you okay? I'm good. And I go everywhere. You know, I listen to rock and listen to down-tempo music. I listen to some good rap. I'll listen to some good soul, funk.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. But the thing that it amuses me and actually influences my actual drawing, believe it or not, and that's why I'm identifying with some of the pieces here, is regions of color.
Oh,
So,
like,
because I've always believed that I'm a moody guy.
right.
So colors create mood.
Yeah.
You know, you walk into a precinct and you painted that institutional
That
green,
green, like Cascade green.
that cascade, like really like menacing green, you feel like you're powerful. It's moved. It's
Right.
really like a, you know, like
Right.
shit. I gotta climb up. And you see a bright yellow or bright red, and you're like, let's go. You know, so I'll experiment with a lot of other painting, and I see that here, you're creating a lot of rooms, like almost different,
Right.
dissected, like sections of moves to me.
Yeah, yeah.
That inform you to the next color, or like to me, it informs where I'm different, where I'll paint maybe 6 or 7 paintings, and they're all just moves. And then I'll go outside, I'll hear someone say something, so an image comes to my head, I come to the studio, you go in there.
Right.
It's almost like paint by numbers in a way,
Right,
but
yeah.
um,
Well, so, yeah, like, for me, if I don't know exactly what every color is, and like, I'll get to a certain place, then choosing, like, the last 3 colors, if I don't know what they are,
Yeah.
it's definitely a mood, like, you're like, yeah, well, if I do that, it's gonna make it, if I add the, you know, you could take, I don't know, but, yeah, like, that decision making, it's
Yeah.
all based on.
yeah, yeah. Days walk you to certain, you know, paths on how to approach. How did you actually, on your own, take that leap into cases like this where,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I had met Steve Powers when he first, I had met him in Futura's at Stashes, one of their offices that they had that I lived near.
yeah,
And so he was selling like on the go ads or something. But I knew his graffiti, and I'd been to Philly, and so me and him made like a friendship then, and then he moved here. He lived near me, so I started hanging around him, and he moved here and wanted to make fine art.
right,
And like I had been doing commercial art and like graphics, logos and stuff. And around that time, later 90s, like 96, 97, around that time maybe, 98. So like him, Shepard Ferry, Cause, and these other, Barry McGee were like starting to like, you know, like I feel like there was like a number of people deciding like, hey, you know what, like maybe we'll do shows. So then me and Steve started hanging around, and we had very similar ideas.
right,
A lot of it kind of based with like a Mad Magazine kind of humor to it.
right,
And then me and him hanging around created the idea for Street Market.
right.
And that's how, you know, like I've done a couple other, you know, I made done like small shows somewhere else. But that was like the big leap. And like I remember when he had a grant for us in Philly. And then it just snowballed. But it wasn't like a straight thing. It was like we did the thing in Philly, and we did the exhibit in Philly, and then it was like, yeah, Jeffrey Deitch might want to do it. But he didn't say yes for like maybe like 8 months or something. So it was like, oh, that might be that, you know?
Yeah,
And then that happened. So that's how I got into it. Yeah.
yeah, much so to Jeffrey Deitch.
Yeah.
And people like him, I mean, you know, it's no different, like talking about Jeffrey Deitch, he's always taking that leap of faith as well, with his artists.
Right. Mhm.
Giving them at least a platform to start.
Oh, yeah.
Or something, right? And you think about Andy Warhol, Irving Blum was a big, you know, collector and a big supporter.
Well,
of his
I
work.
work.
You know,
Okay.
he bought some of the first soup can. I mean, the soup can
Okay.
paintings when no one wanted to buy them.
Right.
They thought that this is great. This is
Right.
like coming from design, you know,
Right.
the ad world.
That time.
Yeah, at the time, it's like, what's this? He bought them in, you know, I think they were like 30,000. No, I think he bought them $1,000. $300? Yeah, it was some like low number that was like, and now they're in the 8
Oh,
figures,
right.
right? So that just shows you that someone sees something
Right.
outside of yourself.
Right.
So back to what I was saying, your paintings are not, they're never finished by you. Someone else
Right.
sees it in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
And sees a different
And
path.
for me, I'm like, that's finished to me.
Right.
but somebody else, you know, but some people get like different meaning out of it, and I don't, and like, so like I don't, I like that. It's like when you hear a record, you don't know the lyric is actually one thing. It's kind of like when words get extracted in lyric, you're like, oh, it's
Right.
this, and then you find out what they in the, and you're like, oh, I like my way better.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that you're very much into mystery, like you as a persona. But when you write the stories that you did when you did the interviews for Getting Up or whatever, you collaged like where you were going. So like if somebody was like, wait, how did anyway? You're a mystery. You're into mystery, and so like that kind of mystery is important.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, like,
You don't want to tell everything.
I don't want to, well, that time, obviously, I didn't want to say anything.
Right.
I kind of like owe him an apology for diverting the scent.
No, it's good.
That will all come out in the glory stories, but, soon. But, to me, life is a mystery. Everything's a mystery. Everything is complicated. We like to paint everything in black and white, and it's really great. And that's what makes it interesting. Because I'd never be bored, and there would be no reason for art.
Right.
Art kind of like is the fine print of life that you can read and get a sense of, oh, that's what's really going on. And sometimes you may not get it. You can walk away, like case in point, back to when we talk about knowing when to stop, knowing when to say it's already done. I walked away from a large painting that is still at my studio. I was pissed. I was throwing everything at this thing. I mean, throwing things at it. The tea, I didn't even throw piss on it. I walked out of the studio. I had a situation happen in Europe where I had to
Retrieve painting.
retrieve paintings in a very street way. I told the guys, room is very full on this side of the fence. So anyway, that was part of like my dilemma at that moment. I walked away from that painting, and when I came back the very next day, it was almost like the painting never stopped making itself. Like the paint never stopped drying, and it started just.
So
He's gone now. Let's go for it. Yeah.
So was it done?
No, it wasn't. My curiosity doesn't kill the cat in me, but it opens the doors and it makes crazy.
Right. Okay. You understood where you figured out kind of where it needed to go.
Yeah, it was the kid gloves for me. It basically said, okay, Lee, you're allowed into the club now. And when I looked at it the next day, whether it was my drinks that I had that night, or the food I ate, or whatever it is that made my mood all of a sudden see something different in it, I was able to approach it now and say, okay, now I'm going to paint on top of it. And then still, people have to say, when they come to the studio, it's done, leave it alone.
Oh.
And I listen. I actually listen. So, yeah.